Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakar, Kadash, and Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and His unbegotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the Lost Rasum tongue, and I say Barakabam to the elders and apostles, Wa'aki and Wa'akwa, and I say Shalom. And this is a sit-down lesson of the World War III news updates, WW3 of World War III news updates as of July the 28th, 2026 on this Tuesday night. And as we've seen, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps use strikes, surprising strikes on military bases of the United States over there in Jordan. I believe Jordan in the United States, they had intercepted those missiles successfully, which was reported. So basically, it was like a surprise attack from Iran targeting Jordan, a military bases over there in the area. It says, breaking news, U.S. Saudi forces attack Iranian-aligned groups in Iraq over drone strikes. Saudi Arabia says the joint U.S. strikes in Iraq carried out in self-defense. 13 minutes ago, it says Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps claims ballistic missiles attack on U.S. forces in Jordan. 23 minutes ago, it says Iran trying to retake initiative and momentum. It says Saudi Arabia, U.S. carried out strikes in the Iranian-backed groups. Yep, wars and rumors of wars. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24.
How about you tell me exactly what?
Because as of lately, we've been seeing the proxy wars been heating up between the pro-Iranian groups against the Israel Defense Force and then the pro-Kurdistan armies. The Kurdistan armies been heating up against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as well too. So as of lately, tensions definitely been heating up over there in Iraq and Syria. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, that's what we hear on and off wars and rumors of wars. If it's proxy wars on and off between the nations, or self-defense strikes on both sides from Iran versus Iran versus the United States, or the Saudi Arabia coalition forces versus the Houthi rebels and the pro-Iranian groups. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? Russia versus Ukraine situation. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not true before all these things must first come to pass, but it's not yet. Right? So it's going to come to pass, but definitely not going to end shit. Matthew 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. This goes to Ephesus. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Right along with it. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus 3 and verse 8. It says, in a time to love, in a time of HATE, in a time of war, time of peace. Right, so we still live in a time of war, we still live in a time of HATE. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, right, the armies of other nations, prepare a war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men in war draw near, let them come up. Right, so the nations are continuing to gather up over there in Western Asia and throughout that whole region. As tensions are heating up between these armies of other nations, on and on, back and forth, like I mentioned again. Joel chapter 8, verse 10, because we've been seeing the proxy wars and the pro-Iranian groups rise up against the adversaries. That's what we're seeing. Beat your plowshares and swords, and the plenty hooks and the spears, and let the weak sound strong. Right, so let the weak sound strong. What's the proxy groups and the pro-Iranian groups rise up against the Israel Defense Force, Saudi Arabia and its coalition forces, against the United States armies as well too. It's the book of Luke 21 and verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, perplexity, verse 1. Right, because we see the nations are in perplexity, especially with the wars, rumors of wars, seditions, uprisings, uproars, people world, and all these different biblical signs that take place among the nations. That's why the nations are in perplexity. We're going to continue to see an increase. And this is the book of Luke 21 and verse 9 to read. It says, but when you share here are wars and commotions, be not terrified for these things must first come to pass, but things not yet. Right, so these modern day uptick of wars and commotions, they only going to continue to increase, but they're not going to end just yet. You see, it says, this is Luke 21 and verse 10. And then say he unto them, nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Right, so that's what we said. Nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. What's that saying? Will continue to increase.
So I joined up with some New York firefighters and we started searching for the rubble. John Sober from New York, Coletti and me didn't stop there. No one there stopped.
This is Revelations 9 verse 12. It says, the one will pass, behold, there come two words after. Right, so the one will pass, behold, there come two words after. And this is Revelations 11 verse 14. The second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. Right, so the second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. So bring out some more news articles. It says Iran launched a surprising attack on U.S. bases in common reports. It says multiple ballistic missiles targeting American forces in Jordan were reportedly intercepted. It says multiple ballistic missiles targeting American forces in Jordan were reportedly intercepted. This was published July 28th, 2026, and last updated July 28th, 2026. It says Iran has launched multiple ballistic missiles at U.S. forces in the Middle East at what U.S. command comes describes a surprising attack. A senior U.S. officials told Access that the missiles were targeting American base in Jordan. CENTCOM did not identify the target facilities or mention Jordan, saying that only the missiles had been aimed at U.S. forces bases in the Middle East. As of 5:45 Eastern Time today, the Islamic Republic Guard Corps has forces launched multiple ballistic missiles from Iran in the attempt to surprise and attack U.S. forces bases in the Middle East. This is published by John Hassan on his X account. Oh yeah, so it says all the incoming missiles had been successfully intercepted. CENTCOM claims that aiming at the American forces remain vigilant at a high state of readiness. This is from open source, watching an additional footage of U.S. interceptors engaging an Iranian missile launch in Jordan.
Hey everybody, this is my stepson James. Matter of fact, I was just for the job is right. So look. Truthfully, Chief, I think you'd rather be anywhere but here. Hey there.
Harvey, I'm a good girl. I didn't kiss a boy until I was 17 for sex.
Waiting to you.
No chance in hell.
So this guy, Ivan, he's making a big show because we're costing him the precious 5 minutes of his life. It's my date here, and he's trying to decide between Rocky Road and Cooties and Creek. I'm getting ready to confront the guy before I can.
Now we're seeing that 45-second clip from open source intel as the United States was intercepting those missiles was launched from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps over there in Jordan. Which had military bases over there in Jordan. It says several videos shared by the open source intelligence tracker appears to show intense air defense activities in Jordan, including a near Mafakif al-Salti Air Base, a U.S. Patriot system reportedly engaging incoming threats. It says the attacks comes after Trump held a closed-door meeting with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. The talks last about 90 minutes and described by the White House as positive and productive. Although few details were released, an incident marked Iran's first reported ballistic missile attack on the U.S. facility since the President Donald Trump suspended American strikes on the Islamic Republic on Friday. Trump said on Monday that Washington and Tehran was engaging very friendly negotiations, but warned that the U.S. could return to strong military action if diplomacy fails. He claimed that he had suspended the bombing to allow talks to proceed, while threatening to beat the hell out of Iran if no agreement was reached. The discussions reportedly centered on reopening the Strait of Hormuz and reviving negotiations over Iran's nuclear deal. Tehran has denied holding direct talks with Washington, said its communication only with Oman about rearranging to the key waterway. The pause following almost 2 weeks of renewed U.S. strikes and Iranian retaliations after the collapse of a 14-point Mandarin if that it had established a temporary ceasefire, lifted the American naval blockage, and provided for the reopening of the strait while a long-term agreement was negotiated. This is First Thessalonians, right? Because Iran hit them with that surprise attack. Because I think when that report came out, when Benjamin Netanyahu when he touched down at the United States, he was going to see, the President Donald Trump the next day, and then it seemed like Iran, they had heard those reports about Benjamin Netanyahu and Trump. That's about keeping a same campaign about not having Iran to have nuclear capability. And then Iran had heard that, then they used a surprising attack on the military bases over there in Jordan, which they actively intersected with the air defense capability over there in Jordan. This is First Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction come upon them as a dread bomb shots should not escape. Right, because the tension between Iran and Israel going to heat back up once again. The tension between the United States and the Iranian armies, that's heating back up once again, despite the fact that talks. And then you got the proxy groups and the pro-Iranian groups, and Iranian revolutionary groups are going against the Saudi Arabia coalition, going against the United States armies and their allies back over there in Iraq and Syria. And this is the book of Mark chapter 3 in verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided, seven kingdoms not stand. Right, so we see in modern day nations and modern kingdoms are being battled, especially from a military perspective. That's something that tends to increase. Matthew 24 verse 6 once again. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, increasing wars and rumors of wars over there in Western Asia, and over there in the Mediterranean Sea, and over there in the Persian Gulf, and the Battle of the Strait of Hormuz heating back up once again. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, Iran versus United States heating back up. Saudi Arabia and its coalition forces are going against the Houthi rebels. Russia versus Ukraine. So these are signs of wars and rumors of wars still heating up. It says, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, so that you be not troubled, for all these things must first come to pass, but it is not yet. Matthew 24 verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, which goes to Ethnos, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Ukrainian FPV drone hits a civilian evacuated. Right, so Russia-Ukraine situation still intensifying. And this is a news article from RT.com as of July 29, 2026, published July 29, 2026. It says Saudis join U.S. strikes on Iran-aligned militaries in Iraq. It says Washington and Wayadad accuse pro-Iranian groups of targeting American forces and Saudi energy infrastructure. It says American and Saudi warplanes has carried out joint strikes against aligned Iranian-aligned military sites across eastern Iraq, according to the U.S. Central Command. The CENTCOM said on Tuesday that the Americans and Saudi Force aircraft has targeted multiple logistics and weapons facilities used by the groups, allegedly directed by the Iranian Islamic Republic Guard Corps, the IRGC, the USCOM, and the Saudi Arabian Armed Forces conducted precision strikes in Iraq on July the 28th against the outlying group that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps directly to attack U.S. forces and Saudi energy infrastructure, the command says. It says Washington claims that the operation was launched in response to more than 30 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps direct drone attacks over the previous 72 hours. It says the attempt to strike on American force has been unsuccessful, but did not provide evidence linked to the target Iraqi groups to the attacks or identity them by name. It says a video circulating online reportedly shows the aftermath of an airstrike of a popular mobilization force (PMF) base in Iraq's West province. The Iraqi media also reported that multiple explosions in the Al-Quratia, pronounced that right, areas of southern Basra province, although the full extent of the damages, any casualties, remain unclear.
يا رب سترك يا رب سترك يا رب سترك ضربك كتاب حزب الله موافقة النبويين يا رب سترك يا رب سترك.
Fair use of that video clip. It says the joint operation came amid a broader Saudi confrontation with the Iranian forces across the region. It says the Saudi-led coalition struck alleged Houthi military sites in Yemen's Houthi government on Saturday after the group attacked Saudi-owned vessels in the Red Sea and declared the Navy blockage of the kingdom. Shortly after the Saudi strike, the industrial Jassim was reportedly targeted in the apparent Houthi retaliation, with a large fire breakout in the facility operated by the state oil companies Aramco. The Houthis has also claimed that of the two Saudi tankers, which were caught fire, while another one sustained minor damage. It says the Saudi Arabia previously led the military intervention in Yemen in 2015 against the Houthis, which had captured the capital of Sana'a. Years-long bombing campaign fails to defeat the group and deepening Yemen's humanitarian crisis. It says the strikes in Iraq also followed allegations by Iraqi National Security Advisor Qassem al-Abandi that authorities have dismantled several militant cells whose members confessed to working for Ukraine carried out a false flag attack and did not identify those facilities or links to the detainees to the attacks in Saudi Arabia. Kavav reject the allegations and unfounded of the substantial. Saudi Arabia has blamed recent drone attacks against the oil facilities on Iran militaries operating from Iraqi territory. The Islamic Resistance in Iraq, an umbrella organization for several aligned groups, denied involvement in the accused riot from attempts to divert attentions from attacks carried out by the Houthis. It is warned that Saudi Arabia's actions against Iraqi fractions will trigger retaliation. And this is the book of Revelations.
Yeah, what's up?
Yep, Revelations 11 verse 14. The second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. Right, so the sin is increasing. The second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. Armageddon, Armageddon 1. So with that, hopefully this sit-down lesson was edifying of the World War III news updates as of July 28th, 2026 on this Tuesday night. As tensions are continue to heat back up once again over there in the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, different parts over there in the Gulf regions of U.S. military interests of Iran which the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps used multiple rocket launchers towards those military bases over there in Jordan of the United States. They were successfully intercepted. And then you had the United States coalition used airstrikes on the Iran-aligned back groups in Iraq of a previous strike that took place. So tensions are definitely heating up over there in the Middle East, Western Asia, especially with these proxy wars heating back up once again. So the second will pass, but hope the third will come quickly. So with that, once again, hopefully this sit down lesson was edifying of the World War III news updates as of July the 28th, 2026 on this Tuesday night. So with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Warkah, Kadash, and Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew of the Lost Holy Tongue. And I say Barak to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akbar. Till next time, I say Korman Sharala and the Ball, Shalom.
Yeah, man. That's how we got it.